let me introduce, let me put you into history. Let me put this man into history and on the map for you, okay? So what is he talking about? Okay, it's very simple. Because there was an area of land in Eastern Europe that at times was owned by Poland or ruled by Poland, and at times it was ruled by Russia. And this area of land in Jewish history is called the Pale of Settlement, okay? And the Jews were not allowed to live in all of Russia. They had to live within this Pale of Settlement. And the Jews in Poland had to live in this Pale of Settlement. And this Pale of Settlement, if you look at a map, it's, as I said, partly in Poland, partly in Russia. And that's where DavidSanitski came from. This concentration of Jewish people was what Hitler tapped into when the war started. When the war started in '39, first he invaded Poland, and he took over the Polish part of the Pale Settlement so he could carry out his plans to get rid of the Jews. And there he had millions of Jews. And then a few years later, in 1941, he invaded, and that's probably his biggest mistake, he invaded Russia. And he got the Russians to fight against him.
He tried.
Yeah, that's right. And when he went into Russia, he took over the other half of that settlement. So the question is how did the Holocaust happen? It's happened because here's a man who wanted to get rid of all the Jews, and he tapped into the largest settlement of Jews in the entire world, the Pale of Settlement. That's how the Holocaust happened. David, where'd you grow up there? Tell me.
Polish people were the most Jewish people, mostly Jewish were in Poland. Mostly Jews lived in Poland. And Hitler had a song. It was in German. I don't forget the words what they used to sing. Heute sind wir in Deutschland and morgen sind wir in der ganzen Welt. Today are we in Germany and tomorrow we have the whole world. That's what they used to sing. And I was at the time 13, 14 years old. You know, as a kid, I was singing with them. I didn't know what they were singing. It was a song. But now, when you talk about it, you see what's going on. I was born in that little town called Zichlin. It was a little village, was smaller than Laredo here. And we were living happily with all the Poles, with all the people there, better voiced, poorer, richer. We didn't care about all that. But we lived together. Hitler came in 1939. The first thing they did was Jews come out in the street. With the microphone, all the Jews have to come out in the street. And right away they were kicking and beating with the rifles, with the guns, kicking us and beating us. We didn't know what happened. Why they doing all that? It was a crazy man. He brainwashed the whole country. And the country went along with him. And when you talk to them, today, I mean, the generations are not there now because there's new generations already. It's already almost 60 years that passed. So there were no Nazis. Nobody was a Nazi. Everybody was a fine person, a fine gentleman. But it wasn't so. Everybody was the same way. Everybody was a Nazi and everybody was going along with him. Because he said, if you're not with me, you're against me. And if you're against me, I gotta get rid of you.
Okay, let me throw something in. In America, when we think of prejudice, when we think of what they call white supremacists, okay? When we think about it, can you imagine, I just read it yesterday on the newspaper, something about two little girls, two like 13-year-old girls putting, did you read that? Two little twins. The Prussian Blue, they call themselves. The critics said, thank goodness they don't sing, so they're not going to be much of a success. They can't sing for beans. But these two little girls, you don't think it exists today? That there's prejudice where she says, you know, they sing songs, they hate black people, they hate Spanish people, they hate Jews, you know, they hate them. And they want only white people to live in America. You say to yourself, who are these people? For the most part, Huddle, let's tell a secret, they're not very what? Intelligent. They're for the most part, they're poorer people. For the most part in the United States, poorer people do this and believe this. But that's not what happened in Germany. What caused this to happen was the intelligentsia went along with him, with Hitler. The lawyers and the doctors and the college professors, they backed him and believed what he believed. And that's how this Holocaust happened. The poor people don't have the power. The rich people had the power. The intelligentsia had the power. And he got them on his side. And that's how the Holocaust happened. Continue.
Yeah, the first thing they did when they came into our little town, all the teachers, all the lawyers, especially the Jewish people and the Christians, they took them all. And they got rid of him right away because they didn't want to have any demonstrations or anything like that. They didn't want any leaders.
How'd they get rid of him?
They killed him. What do you mean how they get?
They shot them?
Sure, they took him away. Nobody saw him, but they just disappeared. The teachers and the lawyers, all of them, they all disappeared. Overnight,
they
disappeared.
wanted to get rid of anybody that could be a potential enemy.
They
They shot the intelligentsia,
right away,
the smart
yeah.
people, the intelligent. Your teachers would have gone first
Yeah.
because they knew they would have protested.
Yeah, my school teachers, they all disappeared right away.
Jews and non-Jews?
Not Jews and non-Jews. There was no difference because they were supposed to be their leaders. You know, there was somebody who can talk to the people and make problems for them. So they got rid of him.
He wanted only one leader himself.
He said, if you're against me, if you're not with me, then you're against me. And if you're against me, I got to get rid of you. All the gypsies, everybody, what did he want from the gypsies? Or people that couldn't walk, they were limping, or with one arm, or whatever. He got rid of them right away.
You know the first people that Hitler got rid of? The very first thing, you should have, you know, there was they say handwriting on the wall. He went into the state institutions. Today we have institutions for mentally retarded children or people, adults that are mentally ill, mentally retarded. He took those people, he took them out to the woods, they would take a truck and they would put the exhaust into a big building and they would march him into the building and turn the truck on and let the exhaust go in there.
Yeah,
and then they wrote letters home to their parents, I'm sorry, they died of pneumonia, they said, and he emptied the government's institutions for the sick and chronically ill. He wiped them all out. He killed them first. That's the first thing Hitler did.
Even his own German people he killed. The Chronicle, right. Even his own, yeah. He killed them. He got rid of him. This man was a very, very sick man. And how the people in Germany itself, if they say there were no Nazis, they were against the war, why did they go along with him? Why? A question. Why did they go with him? Why did they do what he wanted him to do?
He offered them a vision of themselves, that's why. Hitler offered them a vision of greatness, of being the greatest race in the world, he said. We are the master race. This is a country that had been brutally defeated in World War I and forced to accept a very strong and very demeaning treaty that took all their land away and whatever. And he promised them to get them back to glory again.
Yeah,
and he did.
Yeah, for a while.
For a while.
For a while. No, what? He said he had that song, and they always used to sing it. Today we are in Germany, and tomorrow we have the whole world.
Ganze Welt, right?
Yeah? Heute sind wir in Deutschland, and morgen sind wir die ganze Welt. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Go to you.
It's ridiculous.
Go to you. What happened to you?
What happened to me? They came in ghetto, when I was in ghetto already.
Wait. What happened to your mother and father and your sister?
No, my mother was killed after I left. My father and my sister. After, I didn't know it.
How old was your sister?
My sister was 12 years old.
And they killed her?
Killed her.
How did they do that?
How? They took her away and they killed her. What? They killed the mass graves. Didn't you see on
They
television? Yeah, they put the people in the front. First they made the graves.
How old was she again?
12. 12 years old, a little girl. And they put them in the front of the grave, and they go with the gun. That's it. And they all fell into the grave. That's it. That's what they used to do.
And what happened to you?
Some of them I saw. Me,
How old were you?
because I was 14 and a half, going on 15. I had big hands. My father, should rest in peace wherever he is there, he used to say, either you're going to be a blacksmith or a shoemaker because you have such a big hands. That's what he said.
Maybe
Mengele,
Yeah.
you heard of Mengele?
Oh, yeah.
Mengele looked at me, and a friend of mine, what we went to school
You
together.
never told me you meant Mangler.
Yeah, Mengele, in Auschwitz, Mengele looked at me. My friend was standing before me. He was a tailor with very fine hands, you know, and all that. He put him on this side. I come over, he looked at me, but naturally we were all nude, nothing on. Turn around. He put me on this side. And I said to him, why do you put my friend over there and me over here? I want to be with my friend together.
Yeah.
So he pushed me over there.
And they saved his life.
Yeah, and I was working at that time. My friend remained in Auschwitz, and I was sent to a camp called Goleshov in Poland. Goleshov.
Let me give you a little explanation. When they invaded Poland, and then later into the rest of the Pale of Settlement, Russia in 1941. So what they would do is they would, of course, take over they would march into a city or into a town and take it over and put troops there. And they would gather up all the Jews, and the first thing they did was they would put them in what they call a ghetto. So the ghetto was either the Jewish section of town, and now many times they did this in Warsaw. They walled it off, which was the big city in Poland. They walled it off so the Jews couldn't get in or out. And they took all the Jews from all the surrounding villages, you know, on the little places around, and shoved them, took them all in by trucks and dumped them into the ghetto. And people had to live in one apartment. They had to share their apartment with other families living right on top of each other. And that's what they did. They shoved all the Jews into one concentrated area, and then their plan was to make the whole place Judenfrei.
Judenfrei.
What does that mean?
Judenfrei, that means no Jews.
They wanted, their plan was, so they put them all into one area, and then what they would do is they'd have trains, and they'd take, one by one, they'd start emptying the apartment buildings out, take them to the train station, put them on trains, and shove them into cattle cars, and sometimes they had to endure days in the cattle cars, and some people died right in the cattle car.
I slept on him.
That's right. You're standing up. There's no room to even sit down or lie down.
And in the morning,
and they give you a bucket in the corner.
In the morning
that was it.
The morning we took those dead people, we threw them overboard because we needed the room.
So then the train would come to wherever the final destination was, and more than likely it was, depending on where they were coming from, more than likely it was Auschwitz. And Auschwitz, I've been there. The only way to describe it is it was a factory of death. It was a death factory, a place set up to kill as many people as they possibly could.
The only thing, the only ones who remained alive, when he got a number on his forearm here, then you knew you're going to be alive because they sent you to work. But what happened at work, you didn't know. You might survive the work, or you might not survive the work. See?
Okay, let me finish. When you get off the train, when they got off the train, this is where Mengele comes in. They got off the train, they would line you up on Auschwitz, and I saw, they called it the selection area. And they would line people up 5 in a row, and they would have a doctor there, a German doctor, a Nazi doctor, and he would inspect the people immediately. Women with babies, one side. Immediately, old people, the same side. Immediately, little children under the age of 13 or so, to the same side. Immediately, people who have an infirmity, a bad leg, a bad arm, to that side. And those people immediately were taken into the gas chambers and murdered. The other people, like David, were put to the other side, chosen, and they were sent into labor camps. But this is very important for you to understand. Let me diversify for a minute. In the long history of humanity, slavery has existed. All the way back to the Egypt's time, you read about the Hebrews being slaves in Egypt and so on and so forth. But remember something very important about slaves. Now, people want slaves. In America, the black slaves, they were expensive to buy and they were valuable. They did the work, and they cost a lot of money to get and a lot of money to keep. And because they worked for you, you valued them, you wanted to keep them healthy and alive. That is not what this was about. Hitler's goal was not to make the Jews into slaves. Hitler's goal was to kill every Jew he could. And as a result, David will tell you, what did they feed you?
Feed you nothing, a little soup. They used
What
to
do you
make
eat during the day? Go.
nothing. The whole day, in the morning, you get a little piece of bread, ersatz bread. There wasn't even real, you know. You know what ersatz means?
Fake bread, like
Yeah.
fake.
It wasn't even, and for lunch, they gave you a little bit of soup. And they used from brennnessel, they used to cook soup. Brennnessel, that means, you know, when you go out in the weeds and it burns you, what do you call this thing? I forgot.
Like a poison ivy?
Poison ivy. They used to cook soup from that. They used to cook
And for
soup.
supper?
Yeah, for supper the same thing, a little bit of soup. They were
Potato in it,
like no, they have a little bit what you call it in it, manna. No, what you call it?
What?
Manna kasha. What you call that?
Kasha. Wheat or something?
Yeah, it's a
like
wheat.
Like
yeah,
a noodle or
yeah.
something?
No, no noodles, no noodles, no.
Any
It
meat?
was meat?
What, are you
You
kidding?
kidding?
Are you
Meat?
nuts? Meat?
Not even coffee. Are you
kidding
kidding? Meat.
They estimated, you ready? You're sitting down for this?
Oatmeal, like an oatmeal, like a
800 calories a
cream
day.
of wheat, you know, like a cream of
Can a
wheat.
human
They
being
made the soup should be
survive
thick a little
on
bit.
800 calories
And that's
a
what you
day?
ate. That's what that was the best when you get that type of food.
That's right.
Also, I want my students to realize that I've talked about Dr. Mengele, and here's a man who experienced Dr. Mengele's experiments and all of that.
Now, I want to tell you about Dr. Mengele. So when he pushed me over there, they sent me into a stone mine.
A quarry.
A stone mine where they make cement. You know, mountains of stone. I used to climb the mountains and drill holes in the mountains where the chiefs told me, crawl up there with the thing and drill holes, standing on the knees, you know, and drill holes and put dynamite in, and then light up the thing, you know, and run quickly down, otherwise you get killed. You have to run down quick, and one man got killed from a little stone. Fell him on his head, got killed. And he wasn't even a Jew. He was a Greek. I'll never forget that man.
Yeah.
A young man. He
You know-
was taking the camp as a political guy.
So all they gave you
Yeah,
what they call hard labor.
Yeah, they
Hard
had
labor.
they had Christians too in
You
there.
know,
yeah.
you get sent to prison, they say prison 10 years at hard labor. It means that you're not going to take it easy,
And
they're going to put you in
I
a work
used
and you're
I
gonna work
used
real
I
hard.
used to break up stones twice the size with this is.
With what, a hammer?
With a sledgehammer. My hands were all full of either. You
And
know.
all the while eating 800 calories a day. And don't believe anything you say that they put the Jews to work or anybody else to work to make them work and keep them as slaves. That was not what they were doing. Yeah, they got some work out of them, but ultimately most of them died. Did
Yeah.
people die around you?
Sure, sure.
What happens when they couldn't work anymore?
They fell down or they got shot.
They didn't make
They
them
got
better.
shot.
They didn't try to give them medicine or anything. They wanted them dead. That was the ultimate goal.
They tried either which way to kill us. Either which way. Me, I'm not that religious, but I always believed in him, and I still do. And that's, I think, why I'm around here, why I'm still here. And I believe in it very hardly. That because of that, I'm here. I love people. I like to talk with people. I like to be with people. I don't care who they are. Black, white, pink, yellow. I don't care who they are. People. I don't have nothing against them. I was in '78. I was in Germany. They called me in for be a witness against a Nazi. He was with me in my camp that I was. And there was this guy from Czechoslovakia, because this was in where I said where I worked in the stone mine.
The quarry.
Yeah, and this was not far from Czechoslovakia, Polish and Czechoslovakia. And this kid was from Czechoslovakia. He must have been about 17, 16, 17 years old, I don't know. So he figured it's not far from Czechoslovakia. He might find his way back home to Czechoslovakia, and somebody will help him there. And what do you think they did? They sent dogs after him with the German soldiers, SS and all that. They caught him. They brought him back, and what they did is they hang him right in the entrance to the camp, right in the middle. He was stretching up to the ground. He was hanging for 2 weeks. And they said, here, this is what happens to you when you try to run away. That's what the Germans used to do. And this, when you talk to them, now, when it is even an older person, he tells you, I don't know anything about that. I never knew about that.
When I hear these stories, I don't know about you, it astounds me. This is the country that gave us Beethoven and Bach and Goethe, one of the great poets of all time. This is a country that was one of the most civilized countries of the world, that led the world in art and culture and intelligence and so on and so forth. This is the country
it's even more interesting. That's right. The more intelligent they were, more they used to do.
I told you, it was unfortunate. It was the intelligent people that followed him and caused this to happen.
And he wasn't even a German. He is not a German. He's an Austrian. He was from Austria. He's not a German. He came into Germany and talked them into it, and they believed in what he was saying, and they did what he was saying. Whatever he said, they believed him. And they did whatever he did.
How long were you in the camps?
I was in the camp about 4.5, 4 3/4 years.
What happened?
Almost 5 years.
What happened at the end? How many camps were you in?
11.
How'd you get from one to the other?
They sent me from one. We marched, we walked. They used to make the Reichsautobahn from Berlin to Warsaw. Did you hear about that? Did you read about that? I worked on the Reichsautobahn. They used to take off the Mutterboden. Highway. Autobahn is a highway.
Remember I was talking to you about the Autobahn, high-speed cars and all of that? That's what he's talking about, the Autobahn.
I worked on that.
Highway.
We used to take off the grass, now what you call it, the sod. Yeah?
To prepare it for the highway.
Prepare it for the highway. And we used to dig out and straighten it out and all that. You know.
And all the while, they fed you good, right?
No, wait a minute.
They fed you good?
No, the same thing. No different. There was a guy by the name Werner, I never forget. I still got him in my head. His name was Werner, and he wasn't much older than me, you know. And one day he saw the way I'm working. He comes over to me and he said, listen, David, if you can throw a shovel of sand farther than me, and it shouldn't spread, I'll give you my lunch.
Yeah?
My brother, I was with my brother at the time, my brother Nathan. My brother says, don't you dare. I know you can do it, but don't you dare do it. I says, why not? I was at the time 14 and a half years. I didn't care. I says, okay, come on, let's go. I took a shovel sand and he took a shovel sand. He threw it and I threw it. I threw it about 5 feet farther than him, and the shovel turned over in one piece and fell down. The sand turned over in one piece, not spreading. Well, he gave me the lunch.
Yeah, you see, you won.
And I ate his lunch.
You're lucky.
No, he was a young kid.
Oh, that's why.
He was a young kid. He was about 19 years old, 20 years old, I don't know.
Who is that kid?
Werner, that was in
Deutscher.
That was, yeah, he spoke Polish too, because he was on the border from Poland and Germany. The camp was called Wiesengrund.
Yeah, Wiesengrund.
On the border from Poland.
So you spent all those years there. Tell us about liberation. What happened? Exactly what happened?
Liberation, nothing. I was in Plattling.
It's just a bell. 1 second. Okay.
there was a camp called Plattling, near Bayern, you know, the lower Bayern. And I was in that camp too. So they were standing on the airport, we were working in the airport, the German airport. So they were standing about 125 Messerschmitt fighters.
Airplanes.
That was the last fighters, the last one. While we were working, there came a bunch of American planes, and they started shooting down the planes, and every plane was on fire. So one German, where he came from, I didn't even see him, I didn't know, started running. So he got a bullet right in his leg, he fell down. But they didn't kill him. And we guys, we were there, what, 100 people. We were there.
What were you doing, marching from what?
No, we were digging things, whatever they told us to do. We took off the jackets, our striped jacket, our pajama jackets. I call it the pajama jackets, you know. And we were waving to their planes. And they passed us like they looked at us.
Yeah.
They didn't touch one of us, none of us. So when the Germans saw that, they lay down and they called us over, we should cover them. And we had to cover them.
So they wouldn't shoot?
And not one plane remained alive. They shot down all the planes and they went away then.
No, what happened?
That's when they took us out of camp.
What actually happened? The Nazis ran away, I assume?
No, naturally they hide because. But
who liberated you?
After
The Russians or the Ruskies or the
No,
Americans?
the Russians were on one side. This was much later. So we were walking out of the camp. They took us and we started walking.
With the Germans there?
No, with German SS around us,
They
and
had
we were
guards
walking.
marching them away.
And then came from the other side a whole battalion or whatever with German soldiers. And the officer from the German soldiers says to the SS people, no, I don't know, you people don't understand anyway German, so I can say it. Wo gehst du denn hin mit dem Scheißdreck?
Yeah, I know, I understand that word.
Yeah, wo gehst du denn hin?
Yeah,
He
what
says,
are you doing with that?
he says to him, this is people from concentration camp. And he says to him, mach doch, dass du wegkommst.
Yeah.
The Russians sind auf einer Seite und die Amerikaner on the andere Seite.
The Russians are coming from one side and the Americans are coming from the other side.
So they start tearing off the thing, what they had on,
They
the
don't want you to
pennants,
see that they're
whatever,
officers.
throw it away, and then the officers, they say to us, what do you want me to do with you? Kill you or you want to run? If you don't want me to kill you, disappear. So we, all friends, we took 3, 4 of us, 5 of us, and we start going different ways. And I was liberated in Waging. No, I remember, in Waging.
Okay.
The place was called Waging. That's when I was liberated. And that's when the 42nd Infantry Rainbow Division liberated us,
The Americans.
the Americans. And I smoked the first Chesterfield cigarette. I remember that. Yeah.
So American soldiers are the ones
Yeah, and
that-
I was with that company for 1 year with the Americans.
Okay, so take us up to Laredo. How did you get here?
How did I get here? When I came to New York, I was working through people that I knew, upholstery business.
What kind of upholstery? I know.
For cars, for
You did
furniture.
seats for cars, you know?
Seats for cars.
You got a new seat for your car, he's the one that...
Yeah, I used to cover it up. And I used to recover chairs, I used to recover everything. And then a friend of ours, what we met,
Boy,
Hoyne, he came to Laredo in 1964, so after Kennedy's,
before you.
after Kennedy's death, he came, and when he came back to New York, he stood with me and he says, David, pack up and come to Laredo. So I didn't go right. I should have gone right away then. I didn't listen to him
Yeah,
because
eventually you went.
I had the upholstery thing going. So, but then in '74 I came down. '74.
So he's been here ever
And
since.
I've been here since. And I love Laredo. My wife no question about it. She wouldn't leave
Yeah,
Laredo.
she likes Laredo. So we'll wrap it up, okay? So, and then you can ask some questions. So, this is, what can you tell them?
What can I tell you, kids? The only thing I can tell you is this. No matter what's going to happen, you hold on to yours. Don't let anybody put you down, and don't let anybody tell you you cannot do this or you cannot do this. Be yourself. Don't let anybody put you down. Nobody. No matter who it is. Even America. Don't let anybody put you down.
And I'm the rabbi, so I got to add my 2 cents too. And my 2 cents is this: it doesn't matter that you're not Jewish. That doesn't matter. What's most important is that you remember, and you teach your children. You need to teach your kids about this, what happened, and you need to teach it not because it's Jewish, because that's only the particular situation.
Humanity.
You have to remember what happens when a group of people hates another group of people so bad that they want to kill them all and get rid of them. That's the lesson from the Holocaust that you have to remember, how bad hate can be. It's in the history of man, it's the worst, the Holocaust. It's the worst case. And from such a civilized country as Germany, to think that they would do this, and believe me, kids your age in Germany that know this happened, they're embarrassed about it. They don't want to talk about it. They know about it. They don't want to talk about it. They're embarrassed that it happened to their grandparents, that their grandmothers and grandmothers, kids your age.
I spoke to a lot of them on the boat. I spoke to a lot of them over here. And they say the same thing.
Yeah.
We weren't born at the time. We don't even know. It's not right. It happened.
They're shocked. They're shocked. They're in a Germany now that's just had elections, that it just a democratic government just elected their first woman prime minister, right? It's like a woman president. It's an amazingly different country right now. I mean, it's a country that Israel trades with and has good relations with, the Jewish country of Israel, and so on and so forth. These children your age in Germany are shocked when they first heard about this.
I'm going to show them.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm going to show them.
And then you'll ask questions.
Then you ask questions.
What number is it?
That's
It's
what
the
they
tattoo
did.
that they put on his
That's what
arm.
they did to the people, what they want them to get to work.
His brother survived, yeah. Nathan was in...
That's why
David.
I came for.
David, he's still
Not
here.
as much for this.
David,
That's okay.
your brother was in New Jersey, right? Nathan's was in
He's
Florida.
buried in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's buried in New Jersey.
So you're the only survivor of
I'm the
your family?
only one. I have two brothers. One is in Florida buried, and
That's
one
right.
is in New Jersey.
Okay.
And his little sister was killed.
You see? When they give you this, you have a chance to stay alive.